Hello folks, this is Miguel from the Embargo Man channel. Okay, so as we heard in my other video, you know the controversy of John Barnett, the whistleblower, Boeing's whistleblower. Seems that like in my last video I said he got shot, or to make it look like a suicide. In my last video, he got shot in South Carolina, Raleigh, South Carolina. So this is what it is. He might probably was working for Honda Jet. I mean, just to say that why he got killed, because probably the reason why it is because he was going after Boeing. He is a Boeing whistleblower. And one thing I noticed, as there are so many American companies that makes different stuff, alright? So this is one thing that here in America, here in the USA, if it's something that we were grateful for and we make, is in the aviation industry. The USA knows how to make the F-15s, F-14s, and fighter jets, and why we don't make a good passenger jet, right? The problem is not just many companies. This is not just about Lockheed Martin or Lockheed. This is more about the problems with Boeing and in America. In so many industries, we have to say local rivals. In the auto industry, there's the traditional big three of Detroit, like Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler. Chrysler now owned by Stellantis. All right, so now now in the motorcycle world, two American companies in the motorcycle business that they rival each other, in Harley Davidson and Indian, right? So to put it that way, one thing for sure that I remember one time that I see a video about the Lockheed L-1011. All right, this plane is very solid. Back in the day, it gave Boeing a run for its money, even though they have three engines and stuff provided by no other but Rolls-Royce, right? So now that I have done also another video to revive the L-1011 as the LM-1011, Lockheed Martin. If Lockheed Martin is taking too long not to get into Boeing's industry, not to get in the same game as Boeing does, then another American company will pay the bill. So this is what it is. So many industries that that this is going over with nowadays. Too many foreign competition. All right, so as it is, like it is, to say it all, as you could remember Back to the Future when Doc Brown say about the parts of a DeLorean, electronic parts, saying this a piece of junk is made in Japan, right? Well, no, this is on Boeing. Now what will happen is this country in the aerospace industry has going down. I mean, European and Asian companies and Asian companies are kicking our asses left and right in every single industry. All right, so this is one thing that I will say. I don't want the USA to lose. I mean, I don't want Boeing to lose its customers by Airbus, by Honda, or by Comac or Mitsubishi, is because it's being very competitive, right? So the odds are is if another American company could get in. I mean, imagine that, you know, Tesla is a company that's doing EVs, and Rivian. Those are just car companies, but there's just one company that if Lockheed Martin is taking too long to bring back the L1011 TriStar, then I bet if the L1011 TriStar would be brought back, the TriStar will mop the floor on the 737 MAX left and right on safety, quality, and all, because what it is with Boeing right now is losing. It is losing against a European rival in the commercial aviation industry, and it's losing their defense contracts with one American company that's supposed to bring back the L1011 back in business, Lockheed Martin. Alright, so Lockheed Martin is beating Boeing to the punch. Well, I'm glad it's an American company. It is beating Boeing to the punch in there, in the defense area. So defense contract have like hands, you know, Lockheed Martin wins hands down in the defense market. Well, Airbus, it is a global aviation company based in Europe, has won, you know, hands down against Boeing. This is a foreign competitor. I mean, they make their airplanes in Alabama. The A320 are built in Mobile, Alabama. So what's going on with Boeing right now, the whistleblower being killed and all that stuff, is that there is a lack of competitiveness from the same country. All right, look, this is just imagine. Just imagine. I don't care if what you are say that another local competitor, right, a rival from the same country needs to get in. If it's not Lockheed Martin bringing back the L1011 TriStar back, then there is one company that I would say that is by storm, that they make snowmobiles, you know, ATVs, motorcycles, and also they are the owners of Indian. The company is called Polaris. Polaris is going to have one company. It is based in Medina, Minnesota. So what it is, in the creation of PolarisAir. So PolarisAir should have one of their first commercial airplanes. I mean, look at this. Comac have their C-19, a plane from China. It is like it is. I could remember back then, this is what it is when China means junk. Alright, back in the 50s and 60s, Japan means junk. Alright, now what it is, China, just like Japan, they're improving their products, and their products are now top-notch quality. Alright, so I can tell you what, this is what it is with what was going on with Boeing. Alright, it's gonna take too long for China with their Comac C919 to be approved by the FAA and the EASA of Europe. So what it is, this is just a Chinese company going after Boeing, most likely going after Boeing. Airbus is riding high all the way, but what it is of all this, even South Korea, what it is going to be, all what it is going to be competition being fierce from Asia and Europe. All right, that's just to have in conclusion with Japan. I could remember when Japan used to, you know, bring their cars in the United States. like Honda, Toyota, whatever it is, as to say now they're just sweeping up the American competitors, right? So what it is now, the American companies were to get into their game, and what it is with all this stuff, and this is just history. This it is including losing against the Europeans like BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and that are from Germany, right? So what's going on with all this, that now the largest auto manufacturer is not even from the USA, it's from Germany. I mean, that when this company, when they bring those cars, it started back then when their world leader was an asshole, right? The biggest asshole, whatever it is, and Ferdinand Porsche has started. It's called Volkswagen, all right? So Volkswagen is one of the largest auto manufacturers in the world right now, right? So what's going on right now with people just saying with that, like the same thing happened with Boeing, all right? Same thing happened with Boeing. What's going on? Honda Jet right there making their planes, and they started with small planes, all right? So it's going to take too long. When Honda were ready to have their dreams, bringing an airplane that wanted to compete with the Boeing 737 MAX, playing Casey and the Sunshine Man, I'm your boogeyman, because what it is, I mean, one day that they say that company that used to make lawnmowers, or company that makes generators, makes safer planes than Boeing, kind of saying, is like saying, this is ridiculous. Super Bowl, I'm your boogeyman, Casey and the Sunshine Man. That's what's going to happen to Boeing. The people at Boeing will see this. They're not focusing on quality and what will happen with this. And I am sure that 2 accidents would help with this. I mean, the next following accidents with the Boeing 737 MAX, or any Boeing aircraft for that matter, could come and have a chance for Japanese competitors like Honda and Mitsubishi to make their airplanes to compete with Boeing. This is not just about the space jet, alright? The call would be for Japan to make a competitive product to go against Boeing. It is with dead Japanese passengers. That's it. You know, that's it about that. On the other hand, you have Airbus from Europe. I mean, this is going on like this, and I was saying about South Korea also wants to kick in. Was going to be the only help that South Korea would make commercial aviation to compete with Boeing, it would be under a European company, all right? They want to be made by a European company. We all know is Boeing's main rival, all right? So what's going to happen with all this is just like saying in my last video that if Boeing crashed one of their airplanes in South Korea, and just comparing Boeing and the passengers that died on the Boeing 737 MAX with Chinese prostitutes or Chinese women that got into forced prostitution with by the Japanese government during World War II, and Boeing, like the Japanese government, denying that they rape Chinese women or that they rape Korean women. All right, so that's gonna be that. So that was my conclusion in the video that you could watch right there on Embargo Man about Airbus making airplanes in South Korea. So this is what it is, what's gonna happen with this, and also just doing that kind of comparison, right? So Boeing is the only American company making commercial airplanes, and then like like the 777, like the 787, you know, 787, 757, 7 and the 737 and 747. All right, so what's going on in their competitiveness against Airbus will lead to this. As ISS comparing, look at this. Look at what General Motors have done with Daewoo. In the auto industry, the Korean auto industry, they have Daewoo. When Daewoo was going under, GM took over Daewoo, and Daewoo became GM Korea. Right? So this is going to be the same thing happening that family members of that Korean passenger that died in a Boeing 737 or in a Boeing airplane, most likely a 737 Max. So it would be like, yes, this is it. This would be the creation. Airbus money, Sue money will come from dead South Korean passengers. Goes to Toulouse, France. All right. So where it is. The CEO of Airbus, the CEO of Korean Aerospace Industries would acquired Airbus would acquire Korean Aerospace Industries, KAI, and becomes Airbus Korea, right? It becomes Airbus Korea as it is. Like all of you who are watching this, remember, you are ones that you're going to see a new company, a new American company. If you've seen something about another American company, you know that they makes known as Polaris, then stay tuned, because Boeing, it is just like that. Boeing is going to be like the Japanese government denial of raping Chinese and Korean women that they put into forced prostitution. Well, your family members that dying is going to be they're going to be in the same footsteps. You're going to wear the same shoes as your great-grandmothers or your grandmothers that they were into forced prostitution by the Japanese soldiers, Japanese men who served the armed forces of Japan back in World War II. They rape a lot of Chinese women and Korean women, and you're going to be in their step if your family members die in a Boeing 737 Max involving in South Korea. That's what I could imagine that. And and then you see them like that, you know this is going to be Airbus manufacturing A320s in Sasheon, South Korea. But this is where the Korean commercial aviation industry would be under a European brand, under a European company making A320s in South Korea. So that's what it'd be like that. This is technically the Europeans making Airbus airplanes in South Korea, and then it's all handled as, because even Airbus makes airplanes in China too, right? Tianjin, China. Sasheon is next, right? So what is going to happen? What is going to happen next? Talking about all this stuff of what have happened with Boeing and what's going to be the next crash. That the next crash is going to be here, next to here, around this country. All right. So after you've seen Polaris going on with this, this is what PolarisAir is supposed to be. The company PolarisAir would even take the contracts away. I don't know if Boeing is doing with NASA. Maybe PolarisAir, Polaris Aerospace Industries, could put it that way, and PolarisAir brand would make space shuttles in Houston, Texas. PolarisAir should be based in Houston, Texas, and to put it that way, seeing all the ideas of why is PolarisAir so important, why does Polaris need to get into the aviation industry, and all you members of Polaris, keep an eye. The only way you gotta go is not waiting for Honda developing the next Honda jet to compete against the Boeing 737 MAX? Or for Mitsubishi to bring out again their space jet involving with dead Japanese passengers dying in a Boeing 737 MAX to make the call for Mitsubishi to compete with Boeing? The next thing would be to go straight. The only way, because now the duopoly is now it's now against two companies, one from the USA, I'm glad, but sorry, is going down, and one from Europe is beating Boeing to the punch in the commercial aviation industry. This is just one. The only way to break the duopoly. We cannot wait for the C919 not just to be approved safe by the EASA, but to be safe by the FAA, so the Chinese could enter waiting for the COMAC C919, is for an or Mitsubishi or Honda jet going there. The only way to break that duopoly is not a company from Japan or a company from China. It's going to be a company from the USA, and that's where PolarisAir comes in. Alright, so before I would say all this, that the plane that was going to make for PolarisAir, and I noticed this because this is one thing to say that PolarisAir just different, but just talking about more into focus into the Boeing's next accident right here happening, not just in North America, more in Central America, right? So what's going to happen with that is going to be American Airlines, one survivor, Boeing, it'd be probably a Boeing 737 MAX hitting for an American Airlines flight, and it's going to happen in Central America. I don't know, and I'm not gonna tell which country, but then what's going to happen in court when people are made in court is going to be like two people from Japan, probably a former YouTuber, right? So gonna die in that flight. And what's going to happen with Dave Calhoun is going to receive $9 million from some company called Ortega Securities. Alright, Ortega Securities is $9 million to cover up for the loss. The $9 million are the dead passengers that got killed in a Boeing crash happening right here in the Americas, closer to the United States, saying that this is going to be like all this everything on the news is going to be that. So that would be Michael Moore's thing, that Michael Moore, the guy that created Fahrenheit 9/11, other documentaries, he needs to create a Boeing's fall from grace, and it's going to be like a great documentary that I hope that Michael Moore should do, because for going to that reason, I don't want America to lose the aerospace industries against Japan, against Europe, Japan, China, and South Korea under a European companies to make their planes. All right, that's technically Europe making Airbus planes in South Korea, having other line that's going to be Airbus had to have a division. They're going to form Airbus Korea pretty soon, because what it is, South Korea making in the commercial aviation industry, just one shot right there in the bottom. So money coming from Airbus building a factory in South Korea, in Saicheon, South Korea. So what's going to happen right there, Airbus is going to be the number one seller in South Korea after dead South Korean passengers and all that stuff. Then it's going to be like, that's going to be like that for Boeing. That's like Boeing's losing customers in South Korea next, right? Then after all, to put it all the same, PolarisAir, that's what it is, because there's so many in the cockpit control, and I heard this from YouTubers, from pilots, that they fly Airbus and and Boeing airplanes, that the cockpit from the Boeing is like a yoke, and what it is though, and the Airbus planes is the same one, a side stick like similar to the fighter jets. Alright, so this is gonna be like this. What it is about the Polaris Air, the model would be a P300. The Polaris Air P300, I mean, that would be one company just to get Boeing by the balls to have the first company to purchase Polaris Air airplanes. The P300 would be Southwest. Southwest is one of the biggest providers that only buys Boeing airplanes, 737 Maxes and all that stuff. It is the only US based airline, Southwest, that, I mean, even Alaska Air or whatever it is, but Southwest would be the first one to get Boeing by the balls if they want to buy an American-made planes from an American company. They're not going to be built in Alabama. They're going to be built in Texas. Southwest would get the P300, a first customer to get Boeing by the balls. I mean, that is what it is. I'm saying that the P300 from Polaris Air would have Southwest for their first customer. And after all, look, what's going to happen with Polaris Air, it is just going to be having remembrance that they're going to make smaller planes, probably bring back the Fokker brand from the Netherlands. Fokker, how do you call it in Dutch? Put it in that name. That was just one plane that came out with the F100, you know, like regional jet F100. Then the company collapsed because of bad management and something like that. Boeing, in the other hand, is in trouble, is going to be facing the same fate as Fokker from the Netherlands, but this is going to be down on an American company making an inferior quality product. So Polaris is known for making quality products. They made Victory motorcycles. When that thing is out, yeah, so I'm trying to, another American company want to compete against Harley Davidson, right? So after the success of the P300 being built in Texas, right? Houston, Texas, alright? So what it is for Polaris Air, with the success of the P300, then I mean, they're gonna have the P100 in the resemblance of an F100 from Fokker, right? So that would be like that. Take that, just they're gonna be made in one country outside the US, that being in Holland, in the Netherlands, and probably even Polaris Air might be reviving the Fokker brand back, right? So put it that way. But the rest of the airplanes, they're gonna have offices in Houston, Texas, Tokyo, Japan, probably South Korea, and Europe. Europe, and for the European division, is gonna be based in the Netherlands. But after all, even though a company based in Medina, Minnesota, their aircraft division will be based in Houston, Texas. Houston, Texas will making the P100 and the P300. The success of the P300 will be another owner that is going to buy P300s would be American Airlines. American Airlines will be the next customer after Southwest to buy the Polaris Air P300. Then Delta might follow, even foreign airlines might follow, even KLM, they'll be the first company, probably might be one of the first companies outside the US to buy the Polaris Air P300, right? So what it is with the Polaris Air P300, it is just a resemblance, it's just a replicated, you know, DC-10, alright, DC-10, because after Boeing has been bought by McDonnell Douglas back in 1997, then this is when things went downhill for Boeing. And then what else with the competitors back in 1984? Lockheed, you know, Lockheed threw in with threw the towel, even have the competitiveness with the TriStar. Yes, the TriStar, that was an awesome plane made by Lockheed. I hope they bring it back. But yes, but PolarisAir with the P300. So what it is with this, that anybody would flying the P300, even Southwest guys, you know, it's like the P300, the cockpit of the P300 would be side sticks, all the commodities similar to an Airbus. Instead of, you know, a yoke, it will be a side stick. The P300, it would be awesome for PolarisAir. Polaris getting into the aviation industry, it would be awesome. I mean, I bet what it is with PolarisAir is gonna be with engineering that that they know what it is for Boeing engineers or whatever they do, that they focus on quality, not profit, but quality instead of quantity. Boeing has doing quantity over quality, profits over safety. PolarisAir should focus on safety over profits. Safety is the #1 reason why I want an American company, PolarisAir, so we could be #1 in the aerospace industry, in the aviation industry in the USA, say we could live without Boeing. Boeing is going under. When PolarisAir comes out, Boeing is going under. So what would happen is we're gonna have a company based, their parent company based in Medina, Minnesota. Owners of Indian. They make snowmobiles. They make ATVs and whatnot. So if PolarisAir enters the picture, when Polaris enters the picture, Polaris Aviation, aerospace industry, or PolarisAir would be based in Texas. So Houston, Texas would be, that's it. From the P300, the P400, the P500, and the P800. What was going to be with PolarisAir, even being based in Texas, they won't even compete to replicate a cargo plane or whatever it is, a beluga, replicating a Ukrainian freight, air freighter, right? So it would be the P900. So the P900 will look like the Ukrainian-made plane. This is like an American version of this Ukrainian aircraft that is the biggest in the world. So it's based in Texas. We know that people in Texas want their stuff big. So that's gonna be it. You know, American freighter that is the same size as a Ukrainian air freighter. That'd be awesome, right? So what it is with PolarisAir, the P300 will be the first brand. That's what it is. Just to get Boeing by the balls. We're not gonna wait for Comac to enter the US market, taking too long for the FAA to approve to be safe. We're not gonna wait for the Japanese companies, Honda and Mitsubishi. So Mitsubishi, regarding to the Japanese passengers, gonna see the call that Japanese passengers died on a Boeing 737 MAX, wherever it is, could be in Central America, and or that saying that Honda would do, looking in their next project to beat Boeing to the punch, waiting for a Super Bowl commercial, Honda showing their Boeing 737 competitor playing KC and the Sunshine Band, I'm Your Boogeyman, and just showing their plane and showing the tombstone that says Boeing on it. So that means that Honda is Boeing's boogeyman. All right, Honda just is Boeing. We're not gonna wait that long for that. The moment for this thing to happen is just go straight to the source. The PolarisAir needs to go straight to the source to develop the P300 right from the start. Right from the start, focus like it is, just like what the Japanese and the Germans focus stricter in quality control. That is going to be necessary. Japanese, the system will be called Kaizen. PolarisAir should focus on the Kaizen, on the Toyota way of doing things. What it is, all of this would be in-house. We don't need no Spirit, but hey, Spirit Aero Systems are making some crappy stuff, even though that Airbus gonna make in-house stuff once they make their planes in South Korea, right? So what it is with all this stuff, that PolarisAir, that means even if Airbus would be taking the South Korean market, making airplanes in South Korea, even that the president of South Korea's Air Force One would be manufactured by Airbus, alright? So what was gonna happen with the P300 and PolarisAir, getting in there right to the point, right from the start, is what it is, quality, comparing PolarisAir to Boeing. PolarisAir P300 aircraft is a resemblance of a replicated DC-10. It's going to use the same engines as the Boeing 737 MAX use, as the Airbus A320 that is built in Mobile, Alabama has used, CFM GE, the same thing with the PolarisAir P300. What is the difference with this is the cockpit, alright? The cockpit of the P300 would be similar to an Airbus planes, alright? Not to Boeing planes. Boeing's use a yoke. PolarisAir is very sophisticated, smart side stick technology moving around. I can remember that people that are so familiar, that once they get into PolarisAir, people who are familiar flying Airbus planes, they're going to be familiar flying the P300 of PolarisAir, because it's going to be the same similar cockpit to the Airbus planes, similar cockpit to the fighter planes, made by various companies that makes fighter jets. Just the saying that PolarisAir side stick control being electronic or whatever it is. So what it is about all this, that I mean that PolarisAir could take Boeing to school. I mean, Polaris being from Medina and the parent company, the owners of Indian motorcycles. Look at this. When Harley made crappy motorcycles, Indian is selling left and right. And that's a Polaris company. So this is, but just saying that even the big three, when they sell with their cars, when sometimes Ford makes crap, General Motors make it with their Chevrolet or Chrysler or whatever it is. People, what it is, are like you Chevrolet fans, you're gonna look PolarisAir like it's a Chevrolet and the Boeing as the Ford. Alright, so what's going on, it is myself, I'm saying, okay, it is what it is. Seeing PolarisAir as a Ford, Boeing as a Chevrolet, or Mopar heads would see as a Ford or Chevrolet for the Boeing. Alright, so what it is just another American company making a better product, to say the competition would be fierce and all. And one thing about PolarisAir, that is based in the USA. They're gonna make all their airplanes, they should make all their airplanes in Houston, Texas. Majority in Houston, Texas, for the European for the European and Asian markets. They might make the regional planes in the Netherlands, even P300 at a former Fokker factory, right? So what it is about this, because PolarisAir would have only one factory outside the US, well, the rest of the planes will be made in the United States, alright? So what it is for that, P300 is coming for you, it's coming for Boeing, and this is what Polaris should focus in. Polaris should hire aviation engineer, somebody smart in the aerospace industry, all it is, made by engineers. It's not like the Boeing, like it used to be, that used to be backed by engineers. PolarisAir are going to be just like the Boeing from back in the days when Boeing used to be riding high, sitting a lot of airplanes. But this time, the Boeing of today is just full of counters, and they just focus quantity over quality. PolarisAir will focus quality over quantity. So quality is the number one important thing of any aircraft, any commercial aircraft, whoever is probably being flown by American, United, or any airline based in the USA or based in Japan or based in Europe, instead of saying, or most likely, America. Alright, this is the country that just make awesome planes like the F-15, the F-30. We used to have McDonnell Douglas until Boeing and McDonnell Douglas decided they wanted to just go their separate ways, focusing more on quantity, focusing on profits over safety. That's what Boeing is focusing right now. PolarisAir will focus quality, safety over profits. Well, Boeing is profits over safety. Alright, so this what it is. I mean, subscribe to the Embargo Man channel. What do you think about the PolarisAir P300? What do you think of another American company to break the duopoly of Boeing and Airbus? Because even though Boeing is based in the United States, but Boeing is just letting everybody else eat their lunch, even the Japanese. Alright, so what's going to happen with this, that Boeing would go out of business, and we should have not even have we can't even wait for Lockheed Martin to bring back the L-1011 back. Alright, the TriStar back. We're not gonna wait for that. Alright, so that's the only American company left. They're they're outselling Boeing. They're like have the contracts of the defense area, even though Boeing not even making for the defense, even knowing that Boeing suck right now. Lockheed Martin is making a better product than Boeing in the defense area. Well, the European-based Airbus, the global conglomerate Airbus, ready to form Airbus Korea, would be selling left and right, giving more jobs to Alabamians, just like every other foreign-based automaker giving jobs to, like Mercedes-Benz, giving jobs to Alabamians and stuff, whatever it is. Just so to see it that way, it is sad to see one American company go away and waiting too long for the TriStar to come back, or just relying on European, Japanese, and Chinese competitors to take the bill. All right, so that's not gonna be it. We're not gonna say this, even though I'm glad the foreign companies were settling just like anything else. Honda in Marysville, Ohio, and whatnot. So what's going on with this? That I want one American company to go straight to the point, to get Boeing, to beat Boeing to the punch, grab Boeing by the balls. So that's what it is, because Boeing talk of safety has become all BS. Alright, Boeing safety issue, when they talk about safety, is now BS. Alright, so this is what it is. This is not the Boeing from back then. Alright, remember this saying, if it's not a Boeing, I'm not going, right? Well, now the things has changed. If it's a Boeing, I am not going. Alright, so the sketchy thing for PolarisAir to introduce the P300, it is what it is, to have a sketch of people and even for testing it, is going to be very similar. Side side panels, very state-of-the-art resemblance of a DC-10. The PolarisAir P300 will have side sticks. It uses the same engines as the Boeing 737 Max and the Airbus A320neo. Was only difference is that the cockpit is is similar to the ones used by the Airbus and Airbus planes, and the same ones used in fighter jets. And what it is with this, that even Southwest pilots that will drive P300s when they get into an Airbus plane. Okay, yeah, how you know how to fly an Airbus plane? Yes, I learned it from a PolarisAir P300. Alright, this is just awesome. I learned how to fly an Alabama built bird of steel from a PolarisAir P300 that is built in Houston, Texas. Alright, so that's how pilots that fly the P300 is going to say. Alright, so this is what it is. Southwest is going to be the first customer, and please tell me about it. Write me a comment. Subscribe to the Embargo Man channel. Please hit the bell button, and see you on the next video on Embargo Man. That I would say for myself that the day that Polaris ready to go straight to the point, going after Boeing, and make the PolarisAir P300 right in a heartbeat, when Boeing's still screwing up PolarisAir P300. You know, just the saying, if it's a Boeing, I'm not going. Not to worry, there's another competitor from the USA. It's called the PolarisAir P300. I'm going on PolarisAir. I mean, for myself, I've seen if PolarisAir brings the P300, hey Polaris, do that. I might just rather ride on the P300 than the Boeing 737 Max that have killed people. Alright, so goodbye. Goodbye, peace out. God bless America, and God bless all the countries around the world. I would say thank you, Airbus. Thank you for covering up and bringing jobs, giving jobs to Alabamians. I hope you have make more Airbus models in Mobile, Alabama. And what it is, I hope Polaris startup PolarisAir, based in Houston, Texas, and please make most of their planes for the US consumers, airliners, being built in Houston, Texas. Goodbye, everybody.